affair of the world unless the condition of women is improved, and it is not possible for a bird to fly on one wing. So men and women constitute two wings of one bird, or they are two parts of the same engine. So it is very essential to educate women, and it is women in our role as wives, as mothers, as daughters-in-law, who essentially mold the destiny of men. We mold the destiny of our children. So daughters must be educated and supported with as much care as sons. This is what Swami Vivekananda said. And this is also a message to all mothers. We have always been talking about the gender bias from men, but there is a gender bias from women as well. We see many mothers in our society who would rather want their sons to be educated at the cost of daughters. And many of us have seen real life examples where the daughter's interests would be compromised and the son goes for a higher education, especially in families where the means are limited. So let us, as mothers or as parents, consciously educate our daughters and make them as educated as our sons as well. And so Swami Vivekananda also said this, that you educate your women and leave them to themselves. They will work out their destinies. So as an educated woman, I will work out my own destiny and I will know what is good for me. So I begin with these words. And then the status of women in India. Now I have been in this institute for 25 years and I have seen a marked change in the way women are perceived not only by their fellow women colleagues but also by their male colleagues. There is a considerable improvement. Let us not deny the fact that the status of women has considerably improved over the last few decades. And as her ladyship, she pointed out several cases. There have been laws and legislation, and the legislation and other things notwithstanding, socially too, especially in this strata of the society, the condition of women has improved, and we find women in all spheres, be it science, education, sports. We have women in almost every field today. And now there are several schemes at the national level and also at the state level. Now the most popular scheme is the Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao Andolan. So as a woman, I should also sensitize the other women in my vicinity, the lesser fortunate, say our maidservants or our helps. We tell them about these schemes, and at the state level we have the Kanya Shri scheme where girls are encouraged to go in for primary education, and the government of India too has launched a number of schemes, and I myself have been the beneficiary for my child and for my daughter. Several schemes like free tuition fee and then single girl child scholarships and the like. Okay, and are women really aware? Are they aware of their rights? Now, as her ladyship and the previous speakers pointed out, that there are several statutes in the constitution which provide for the protection of women, the equality of women. Madam pointed out the Article 14, 15, 39D, and I'll specifically show you some statistics where the Article 39D has helped the women participation and women empowerment. And now we have the Sexual Harassment Committee in workplace. See, earlier one had to knock the doors of the court, or there were no proper institutional mechanisms. Now with the sexual harassment of women in workplace in position and the ICC in almost all government establishments. So this is a platform where a woman can freely express. She can go, and as Professor Sarkar was mentioning, she can talk to the members of the committee or lodge a complaint. They are approachable easily. Now, what are the problems faced by women in workplace? Apart from the physical harassment and the legislation notwithstanding, there can be emotional blackmailing, and it gets compounded when the couples are working in the same organization. You can be emotionally blackmailed. You can say that if you do not do this work, you see what will happen to your better half who is also there in the establishment. So there can be emotional blackmailing. There can be psychological harassment where you suppress, sideline, subjugate, and do not provide the same opportunity for the woman as it is provided for the man. Now, for example, let us say there is a task where the woman can also do it as well as the man can, but the man is preferred over the women. the woman is not given an opportunity. She is completely sidelined, or she has a technical point to make in a committee and she says that yes, it can be done this way. She is never heard. It happens to many women, and many of us know that it does happen. So I don't know if there are any legal mechanisms where this kind of psychological harassment can be addressed. So I have seen in many places when the woman is harassed in such a way, she loses confidence, she feels very inferior, and many a time it leads to nervous breakdown, and sometimes the woman also wants to call it quits. She says, no, I am not very keen on working in this job because it doesn't bring up my potential. I feel it's a waste. And there is also the stereotyping and talking derogatory about the women's professional abilities. So they say, oh, you are a woman. No, a man will be better capable of doing this. This still exists, all said and done. It exists everywhere, even in institutes of national importance. So making derogatory remarks, this can also be very, very, it can emotionally hurt the woman, and it can lower her self-esteem and confidence. And the other thing is, see, there are lack of hygienic and easily accessible and well-maintained washrooms. I just want to point out that when I joined the Department of Electrical Engineering, there was no washroom in the department, and I was in a family way. Then I had to go downstairs. Many of the women students who are there, you know that there is a washroom downstairs. I had to walk up to the washroom to the first floor. I would be the second floor. I had to walk up to the washroom to the first floor. And only later, now I understand that our director has come up with a scheme where every floor will be having washrooms for women. There will be 2 or 3 washrooms for women which are easily accessible and hygienic. So this is also very essential, as her ladyship had pointed out. There are laws and legislation, but the implementation still is a question. So these are some of the problems and challenges which women face in the workplace. And due to these challenges, we are not able to realize our full potential. The career growth is stunted, the professional development is limited, and so many even develop inferiority complex. And before the normal retirement age, we see a number of women going in for voluntary retirement. It may be due to low self-esteem, maybe due to societal pressure problems, but there are several women who, on the basis of this kind of harassment, not essentially physical, but the other kind of harassment, they quickly call it quits in the workplace. So we need to develop a better work environment where the lady can realize her potential, and she is also treated with dignity and respect. So all the legislation notwithstanding, the dark fact remains that many women are not aware of their rights, and there are, out of, as Madam Sudeshna was telling, the fear and social stigma. Suppose I go and complain against a man, I complain against my head that yes, this is not proper, this is unwelcome. So there is fear and there is stigma. And as I said, the problem gets compounded. In today's context, we have several couples who are working in the same organization. So when the couples are working in the same organization, the problem gets compounded. She is afraid, and she is also afraid of the social stigma that would be attached to the complaint and whatever happens. And so there is need to sensitize, as the previous speaker said, not only women but also men. Both men and women have to be sensitized, and men should learn to have respect for women, respect for their professional abilities. So a change in the mindset is what is very essential. And I would also like to point out that we have, for example, in the campus, we have a IEEE Society for Women in Engineering, and there is an affinity group. And I have seen abroad, these affinity groups go around to schools, they sensitize young women, they tell them the importance of science, mathematics, the science and engineering, and other general topics related to women. So if this affinity group can be used with advantage in sensitizing all the young students that I see here, and go to schools nearby and make them aware of their rights and make them aware that they can also achieve and they can also stand on an equal footing with men. Now let me just quickly present the statistics at IIT Kharagpur. Now as you can see, I've given you the statistics for the last 4 years. Now the number of, as Professor Sudeshna Sarkar was telling, the statistics are pitiable, and indeed they are. You can see that the number of women employees, female employees, considering everybody, the permanent employees, the temporary employees, the contractual employees, all put together, has the percentage has not improved. It is standing at around 12%. Now, out of this 12%, there are, you can see the faculty. Faculty is the teaching staff, and the 57 to 70, it has increased over the last 4 years. Now, of this 70 faculty, there are only 17 professors. So again, it stands at a very, very pitiable level of 11%. So there is a need to improve and encourage and have more women faculty. And let us quickly have a look. Most of these, another observation is, out of the, right now we are having 194 women employees, of which 87 are Group A officers, 70 are faculty, and the rest belong to Group C, and there is a solitary Group D employee. And there is absolutely no representation in the registry. Starting from the registrar, assistant registrar, deputy registrar, we have had no women since the inception of IIT. So that is one area where it is very poorly represented. But again, it's very heartening to see that women are getting representation. Women from IIT faculty, women are getting representation on the boards. So that's a really heartening thing. And it would be an icing on the cake if we see some more women in the registry as well. That would be great. Now let's have a quick look at the female student enrollment data. Now let's look at the last line. It has not gone beyond 15%, 15 to 16%. So there are only 16% of the students who are females. And let us look at already 2 and 3, the BTech and the dual degree programs, where the number of women enrollment is standing at a pitiable 8%. And let's come to the MTech, where you can see that there are, the figure is around 16%. And madam, we found that there are several colleges in Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and I also think Maharashtra, where there is reservation for women to the tune of 33% in engineering colleges. And that possibly could be one of the reasons where we saw a lot of women coming into these engineering programs. And so also the PhD programs, we see that there are about 28% of women who are coming. Again, it is due to the same reason that there's 30% reservation for women, 30 to 33% reservation for women in these states. So we are having greater women participation at those levels. But unfortunately, at these levels, we have very little female participation. And now this is the most prestigious JEE examination. I have given you the absolute numbers as well. The number of female students. Now we see 2015, the number has gone down. That means it is showing a steady decline from 10% to 8%, which is certainly not an encouraging trend at all. So it means there are inherent factors which are acting as deterrents to all the female students from taking up these examinations. It is not that they are capable of doing it, but there are certain inherent factors. And in fact, there was a study done by Professor Sukhatme from IIT Bombay way back in 1992, and also in IIT Madras by Professor M.S. Anand. So it was essentially found that the coaching is a big factor. Coaching, going to remote centers where the safety of women was at stake. So this possibly could be one of the reasons why the decline is so sharp. So this number has to be brought up. There are capable girls, there are capable women. When we have women astronauts, when we have women pervading every sphere, certainly we can have more number of women here. So I would just like to end here that with a word of caution. Now we have all been told about the legislation, and the ICC is there. ICC is there, and as Professor Banerjee and Professor Sarkar have pointed out, that anybody is free to approach them, anybody is free to go and talk to them. And it is also heartening to note that a course on gender sensitivity is going to be instituted. That is very essential, and I think it should be offered to all the young girls who join the institute. Tell them what harassment is all about. But I would just say that this legislation has offered women a lot of freedom, and it has protection and freedom. And now freedom does not come free. Freedom comes with a price, it comes with a responsibility. So it is also the responsibility of we women not to abuse or misuse this law, but use this law very carefully and act responsibly. and never take the law into your hands. And whenever there is a case, whenever you are harassed emotionally, psychologically, physically, just approach the ICC. This is also to all the young students here. So whenever you feel harassed, just approach the ICC. They are approachable. You send them an email, talk to them over the telephone. As it has been reiterated, your details will be kept confidential, but never take the law into your hands. There are mechanisms, there are procedures. You will be taken care of and you will be protected. So this is ensured. So on these words, I would like to conclude my talk and thank you once again for a patient hearing.